What's up, y'all? Today we're going to be talking about this bundle of joy. Safe to say this may be graphic for kids, but if you got on your big girl and big boy britches with a healthy appetite of horror, this may be your cup of tea. Carrion, from what I can tell, is the debut title, or at least the most notable game that's coming from the indie developers known as Phobia Game Studios. This title is also published through Devolver Digital, so I can somewhat already tell you what direction this game is headed, and if you watch the intro, you can too. I first saw this game being introduced through Devolver Digital 2020 Game Expo a year ago, and if you're new to this channel, I'm rocking with the PlayStation 4 version, so let's get into it. The story of Carrion is a very simple one. This alien-like creature of unknown origins breaks free and just starts wreaking havoc on everybody in what appears to be this underground facility. Throughout the game, you get these flashback sequences to get a better understanding of how things came to be, but I don't want to spoil too much, or should I say too little, of what's presented within this game. The plot is something that is here, but at the same time not. Things pretty much just kinda happen. Carrion doesn't go into detail with a concrete narrative, but it drops breadcrumbs through subtle hints for the player to come to their own conclusions. By the time you get to the end of this game, you'll pretty much get the gist of what happened. However, it may require a second playthrough to conduct your own investigation into what the hell you just played. Already off rip, just booting this game up and seeing the main menu, I just kinda knew that this game was rated M already. I don't know what gave it away, but I guess you can call it intuition. A cluster of flesh, gums, and teeth with a tongue seemingly Swiss cheese moving around like a lost and confused snake just kinda had me like,
holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
Funny enough, it reminded me of this old horror movie that I saw one time called Teeth that was about this woman's flower that had thorns, but in her case, her flower grew teeth whenever people will, whenever they would try to deflower it, to put it metaphorically. I found it funny, but little did I know that not too long ago when this game dropped, the icon for this game on digital stores was changed because of its controversial appeal. This pivotal decision struck a polarizing dialogue amongst the intellectuals of intellectuals that can be found exclusively on Twitter.
Oh, no.
As I play Carrion, I must say that this game is gruesomely beautiful. Its execution of bringing out the perfect sense of terror, even though through pixel form, still captivate the sense of a cinematic horror scene from a well-directed movie. Things can go at a very fast pace in moments where the player will have to break for it, and it's within those moments it's beautiful to see how chaotic and violent things get. Take a look at the detail of the characters and environments, for example. The animation of Carrion itself is impressive alone. The way it moves around with its tentacles flailing around and extending out, automatically latching onto surfaces in its proximity really does emulate what it would look like if the symbiote Carnage from Spider-Man would move if it was desperately searching for a host. Now on to the enemies and the character models for the victims you're going to be crossing paths with. These people who unfortunately dwell within their future graves look good and can easily be identified as their profession simply by their attire, and of course whether they have weapons or not. When it's feeding time and the teeth comes out, seeing their bodies being decapitated in half never gets old. It just gets me thinking about the cartilage being broken whenever I see this wad of spaghetti augment its composition from soft flesh to include hardened bones for consumption. Then afterwards, wherever it goes, it leaves a trail of blood as evidence of what has happened during and after its lunch break. And over time, as you continue to play this game, visually you can see the transformation from how this monster starts to the size it will inevitably become. Watching this thing within compact and enclosed spaces is awesome, but unsettling to look at. I find it hilarious when the game separates apart of this thing just because it has too much mass and you can just see it compacting and moving around, trying to break out. Lastly, I want to talk about these environments. I'll put these settings into three categories: a somewhat tropical savanna, a decrepit industrial complex with labs, and lastly in certain segments, an ancient alien tomb of sorts. Some of these theme areas can grow quite stale, but then you have moments where the environment adds somewhat of a sense of gracefulness to the movement of Carrion. And what I'm talking about are these underwater segments that for whatever reason is the only sense of peace and tranquility there is to be had within this game. That is, besides the, well, you know, the usual. In the gameplay, I will go over how this creature would change the landscape through its influence, I should say. And even seeing that is disturbing, with its parts just expanding into different regions. It's kinda like looking at alien body horror. This game is a weird one. Instead of playing as the hero or some type of anti-hero, you actually play this monster who can either be interpreted as the antagonist or some type of misunderstood being that has been disturbed. Whichever the case, this seemingly wad of radioactive spaghetti with teeth is what the player will be controlling. Now how you're going to be controlling it is of course via the directional pad or the left thumbstick, since I'm playing on the PlayStation 4 version in regards to your movement. As far as your abilities, most of which will be directed with the right analog stick. Utilizing these abilities will one, keep you alive, but also make you become the ultimate apex predator for the people that wants to destroy you. Some moves you start off off with, but as the game progresses, others will be obtained by breaking and absorbing them within these chemical containers. The player can use his tentacles to activate switches, drag and ragdoll doors and other objects. And lastly, but probably the most crucial, is the ability to snatch up your human victims to devour them. This technique not only keeps you alive, but makes this monster grow exponentially in size, which later on opens the player up for more abilities. As you get further into the game, the player will understand which size will be appropriate to move forward, seeing as though each size is exclusive to certain abilities which will be switched out with another one from a different size. Majority, if not all, puzzles of this game is centered around this familiarity of each individual size and what they can do. For example, the player will be able to scream and bum rush through sealed areas in one size. However, when you're smaller, that ability is placed with another one to shoot out what I can only describe as a Spider-Man's web to hit switches and levers out of reach. How you will gain more weight, which this game refers to as biomass, is either by devouring victims or spreading your biomass into these sections. And how you lose biomass is by dropping it off in these small ponds of water that you'll find every so often, and by being shot at, shot, and of course burnt by people who obviously don't like you too well. So it's best to be cautious around people that's trying to shoot at you. And of course, if you're set on fire, you better find some water quick. Losing all of your biomass, which is depicted by this gauge at the top of the screen, means that you're done for, and don't think it's just only humans that you have to deal with. Fortunately for the player's convenience, you get something like a sonar radar to detect them. But in these areas, you can not only save your game, but get biomass that would more than likely be one step closer to obtaining new passageways, and doors that require 3 or more access points to open. In many aspects, I would consider this game somewhat of a Metroidvania when it comes to exploration and backtracking. Moving from one area to the next seems simple, but over time you realize that this game can seem like a huge maze, and the fact that you don't have a map doesn't make things any easier. There were many times where I've gotten lost and would really wish I knew where to go next, let alone where I was when I came back to resume this game after taking some time off, just to handle real life responsibilities. But that pretty much is the only negative I have to say about this game as a whole. The overall controls is easy to understand, very responsive, and actually makes this game fun to play. Now, if there was 2 major hints that I could probably give the viewer, is that 1, when you get to this area with this little pole that follows you and pretty much blows you up, there's actually an ability that you need in order to get past this. And the second thing I want to say is that whenever you see like this little hieroglyph somewhere, then that would mean that one of these containers, those chemical containers I was talking about, yeah, one of those is nearby, so it'd be best for you to look around. This game sounds amazing. Hearing the carnage from jumping down on people, busting through doors, throwing things around, and even down to hearing the screams of people is just gratifying. As a matter of fact, get used to tolerating hearing screams, but I can't blame them. I mean, your mere presence kind of warrants such reaction. And also, if you don't like spiders or the sound of tentacles, this game may not be for you, because as you move, you're going to be hearing your tentacles spreading all about. Oh, and as I said about the enemies coming at you with various weapons, hearing them is just god tier. Every shot coming from a gun has power behind it, and you can hear every bullet when it hits the floor. There is this one enemy that I must say makes me remember the poetic words spoken by the wordsmith and lyricist that goes by the name of TF. In the song where he is featured, known as Tuki Knows 2, from the artist Schoolboy Q's 4th studio album Blank Face, he states, I got an 8-ball, I got a rondo, I got an AK, when that bitch spray, it's like pulling strings on the lawnmower. However, it's hearing the monster you play as scream in pain what takes the cake for me. It sounds organic and disturbing to hear this agonizing, inhumane shrieking of a noise coming from it. One interesting detail in this game design is that when something moves and it's loud, the player isn't the only one that hears it. Your enemies quickly stops and listen to the direction where the noise is coming from. Then, when you're submerged up underwater, all the sounds become mumbled just to emulate the notion of being underwater. Overall, if you have a good sound system, you will love this top quality display of audible submersion. Enjoy! Carrion's original soundtrack was done by Chris Velasco. This man is a reputable music composer whose contributions and records speak for itself. I took the time out to go on his official website, and his bio states that he is one of the most sought-after composers working today in media, scoring some of the world's biggest video game franchises. And my god, this bio isn't lying. If you take a look at some of the titles he's done, which are popular and unpopular, and then when you look at some of the rest of the titles he's worked on, you have to respect his resume. But anyway, on this game's soundtrack, Mr. Velasco brings this underlining undertones of a suspenseful and horrifying atmosphere to this game. I mean, what would you expect? Whenever Carrion gets attacked, or when you enter an area seemingly prescriptive from some kind of confrontation, I find it that this heart-pumping, adrenaline-inducing track just comes up out of nowhere and flares up. There will be moments where it's quiet with no music present. This essentially allows the sound design to do its thing and take center stage. But listening to this OST on its own, it hits on some loud, tribal, and sinister feels. Expect to hear a whole lot of horns, string instruments, drums pounding, and on songs with the percussion being absent, you are most certainly going to get those vast but dark moments of just melody and tone. And needless to say, it matches the visuals quite well. In addition to Carrion's soundtrack, there was also an EP entitled Purcahse that was released as well. Big ups to Black Screen Records, who just seems to be the #1 go-to place to pick up your physical copies of many games OSTs, including this one. Peep out that library, you cannot go wrong. But also, I will provide links to where you can pick up the game's OST from your preferred platforms, and also where you can check out Chris Velasco's works. With everything covered, I think you should pick this game up now. I'm rating this game a 9.5 out of 10. I really haven't played a game like this before. It looks grotesque and beautiful, not to mention that, well, it was actually fun. It took me like 2 weeks to beat this game, but that's only due to me sitting down with it within hour sessions. But if this game had a map and I didn't have other things I had to do, it would have been shorter. Carrion is now available for PlayStation 4, Steam for Mac and PC, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and GOG for only $20. I don't know about the other versions, but if you purchase the PlayStation 4 version, not only do you get the Carrion game, but you also get the DLC Greatest Time of the Year, a seemingly Christmas themed expansion just for the holidays. But to me, this DLC is just for those who want a little bit more Carrion. I honestly don't believe it adds anything to the overall plot or gameplay. It's pretty much the same formula and equivalent to having just an extra stage to play on. But if you played this game, tell me what you think about it. And until next time, be safe out there, and peace, y'all.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit up that notification bell, and I gotta go.